Welcome to Case Note Friday. My name is Fadan. I'm a family law solicitor practicing in Sydney, Australia, and I'm going to speak to you today about a case between Sofia and Treacy. It's a same-sex relationship case involving artificial insemination, and it went on for about 6 years, and it's a sad case in my view. There were 3 court cases in all. Let's get started. So to understand the complexity of the case, and there is some complexity, I have to take you all the way to the beginning when Treacy and Sofia first met. This is Sofia. She is gender fluid, but her pronouns are she and her. This is Treacy. Treacy always wanted to have a baby. She wanted to have a baby for a very, very long time. She found herself in her late 30s and she was not pregnant, and she decided that she was going to fall pregnant by way of artificial insemination and by getting a sperm donor. So she takes steps to try and find herself a donor. She engages a lawyer. She has a sperm donor agreement drawn up at her cost, and she's tried twice to try and fall pregnant through artificial insemination, but she hasn't yet been successful at the time she meets Sofia. So her and Sofia form a relationship. They're girlfriends in 2017. Now, Sofia says to Treacy, I know that being a mum is your dream. I'm going to support you in that dream. My baby is my career. So whilst I don't want children, I will support you in your attempt to fall pregnant. Now, that's somewhat in dispute. I should say that Sofia says that she never said that her career is her baby. That was something that came out at the trial, that Treacy said. Having a baby and being a mum was all that Treacy ever wanted to do, and she was so dedicated to doing it. She was paying for all the procedures. She was paying for the syringes, for the pregnancy tests, for the sperm donor process. She was doing everything. Sofia was there as her support. Now, in 2018, they go to a hotel room. They engage a sperm donor called Mr. S, who is a fisherman. There might be a pun in there somewhere. Mr. S is the sperm donor. He donates sperm, and she does fall pregnant. So at the end of 2018, in about September, Treacy for the first time falls pregnant, and she's very excited. Sadly, she miscarries that baby, but she does get excited at the fact that she could fall pregnant after having attempted so many times. By December, she falls pregnant to Mr. S and the sperm. He signs a sperm donor agreement to say he's going to have no relationship with the child and he's merely a donor. However, they're in the relationship at this time at the end of 2018. So successfully, Treacy has fallen pregnant. Sofia is there. They're in a relationship as girlfriends. Now, remember that they each have their own houses. They have separate finances. They live their own lives. Treacy says, she's my girlfriend. Now, Sofia says at the trial that they were in a de facto relationship. So the baby is born. It's a little boy, Xavier. Xavier is born in 2019. Now, I'm going to take you through why this case became so complicated. After the baby's born, and they're still together at the time, and Sofia is there at the birth. She's there giving support. She does skin-to-skin contact with the baby, which is usually a pretty important thing. We call that a kangaroo cuddle. And she is there for the birth of the baby, right, for Xavier. But remember that they don't live together. So Treacy finally has her baby, and she's so happy that she has her baby. But her relationship with Sofia has somewhat soured. So sadly, only a few months later, they separate on a final basis. And Treacy has baby Xavier and is just living her life with the baby. Now, Sofia says, I want a relationship with baby Xavier. You and I were in a de facto relationship, and I'm a parent of the baby. Now, when Xavier was born, Treacy put Sofia on as the other parent on the birth certificate. Why did she do this? She said she felt significant pressure. After they separated, Treacy said, you're going to have nothing to do with the baby. Baby Xavier is my child, and I'm going to have you removed from the birth certificate. So she made an application to birth certificate and marriage and actually got her removed. Now, Sofia said, that's not right. I'm a parent. I have rights. So they end up going to court. Sofia's exercising her right as a parent, even though she has no biological relationship to the child. She says, I want to be involved in the child's life, and I'm a parent pursuant to that birth certificate. Now, it came before the court for the court to decide the threshold question of whether or not the parties were in a de facto relationship at the time that baby Xavier was conceived. Were they in a de facto relationship at that point in time? It didn't matter what happened after. It didn't matter when the circumstances of the birth were they in a de facto relationship at the time that Xavier was conceived, right? That was the threshold question for the judge to decide whether or not Sofia was a parent. Now, ultimately, that case came before Justice Carter, who considered all of the evidence, and the judgment is very long, and I've read it. But the upshot is, no, they were not in a de facto relationship at that time. And some of the key reasons for that were they never lived together. There was no degree of commitment for a life together. So they didn't agree between them that they were going to have a future commitment for a shared life, which is the test in a de facto relationship. So there was no such commitment. They had very independent lives. And although Sofia was supportive, so what? Girlfriends are supportive. They're supposed to be supportive. She had other people that were also supportive. It didn't meet the threshold. So the fact they had separate finances, they never lived together, and there was no sort of smoking gun. There was no piece of evidence that Sofia could point to say that we did have this intention for a commitment to a shared life in the future. So because of that, she lost before Justice Carter, and the decision was that there was no de facto relationship. Notwithstanding that, Sofia still had the right to bring an application to say, well, I'm a person who has some involvement in the child's life and I care about the child. You can do this under the Family Law Act. This is the section 65C of the Family Law Act says, who can apply for a parenting order in the court? And have a look at subsection C, any person concerned with the care, welfare and development of a child. So under that section, even though she wasn't a parent, because the other case had said that, she still had a cause of action under section 75C. Commonly, if you're a grandparent, this is the section which gets you in to commence the proceedings or have a say about a child's life. So the case comes for a trial where Sofia is saying she wants a relationship with Xavier, who by the time of the trial was age 3. She'd had no relationship with him, no time with him, nothing. He was now 3, didn't even know who she was. And yet here she was fighting a case to be involved in this little boy's life. Let's see what the court said. By the time of the trial, Sofia was 54, Treacy was 42. The evidence was that Treacy, I call her Treacy even though it's Ms. Treacy, she always wanted to be a mother. They never lived together, as I said, and they had this sperm donor, which was how the child was conceived. They separated 22 December 2019, and it was only a month later that was the last time Sofia has ever seen Xavier. Now, Treacy said, there's no relationship between Xavier and Sofia, and I don't have a relationship with her either. In fact, it's somewhat hostile. We're not friends. We don't communicate. This isn't a good thing for my son to be involved with this woman who I don't have a relationship with. It's going to be bad for him in the future if she's involved in his life. She says that she only put her on the birth certificate because she was subjected to emotional and psychological pressure from Sofia. The ICL was very cautious about Sofia and X meeting because it might provide to him a false narrative of his parentage, and it might compromise his identity in his core relationship with his mother, Treacy. Also pointed out the entrenched conflict between Treacy and Sofia, which couldn't be good for Xavier. Now, Sofia really fought hard in this case. Her affidavit was 568 pages. She was also self-represented. The expert said that it's difficult to foresee how these parties will ever establish a co-parenting arrangement into the future, and it would be inappropriate for Xavier to be in the middle of a combative relationship. So the trial judge said that Treacy is to have sole parental responsibility for the little boy, she's to have sole decision making and the child's to live with her, and Sofia is to have no time with Xavier into the future at all. And basically her application was dismissed, so she lost. Now, Sofia wasn't happy with that, so she filed an appeal to the full court. The appeal came before 3 judges, and Sofia argued initially 30 grounds of appeal, which she reduced to 16 grounds of appeal, and all of them were unsuccessful. The grounds were things like the judge was biased, she wasn't accorded procedural fairness, and it came down to she didn't agree with the judge's discretion. Decisions that the judge had made, findings she didn't agree with, and you can't appeal on that because family law is ultimately a discretionary area of law. So the case was dismissed, and finally Treacy was able to live her life with baby Xavier into the future. He was about 5 by the time of the trial. They'd been fighting since 2022. The appeal was heard in 2025, and he was born in 2019. So for the whole child's life, these parties had been in dispute in court for 3 years. And I think it's really sad. She had 19 attempts at artificial insemination and finally became successful and fell pregnant. And then for the entire baby and toddler, and when he was about 5, for that entire period, they were in dispute. So she really couldn't enjoy motherhood as she ought to have. Anyway, that's the end of the decision.